Hello, boys and girls. It's Mrs. Stathis again. Today I'm going to read a story. It's called I Hate English. Many years ago, I used to teach kids learning English. Some of you might still be out there as an adult. And sometimes kids just need a wait time just to listen. This is called I Hate English. I hate English, Mei said in her head in Chinese. Mei was smart in school, in her school in Hong Kong, in Chinese. But her family moved to New York. She didn't know why. She didn't want to move, and she said all that in Chinese. Chinatown in New York was okay. People looked like people she knew. People talked like people she knew in Chinese. In New York, in school, everything happened in English. Such a lonely language. Each letter stands alone and makes its own noise, not like Chinese. Sometimes English letters fight each other. We will go on a class trip, the teacher said. In English, T-R-I-P, thought Mei. The letters T and R bang against each other, and each keeps its own sound, not like Chinese. Mei loved Chinese, especially writing. Fast strokes, short strokes, long strokes, the brush, the pen, the pencil, all seemed to fly in her hand, but that was Chinese. Mei wouldn't speak in school. Most of the time she understood what her teacher said, but everything was in English, and Mei wouldn't speak English. One day, her cousin Bing took her to the Chinatown Learning Center. Students brought their homework for help, but not Mei. She wouldn't work in English. Tutors helped the older ones with their English. Mei helped the little ones with arithmetic. She was good at arithmetic. Numbers weren't English or Chinese. They were just numbers. Mei loved the center. She talked and listened and explained and argued. She did everything in Chinese. She helped the director set up the tables. She played ping pong and checkers. She sang songs. She wrote letters to friends in Hong Kong, all in Chinese. Dear Yi Fong, she wrote in Chinese, how would you like me to visit you? She laughed as she finished the letter. Then she had to write the address in English. Silly post office in New York, she thought. Why can't they read Chinese? Mei had a dream. She thought about it at least once a day, sometimes twice or 3 times. She told Bing about it in Chinese. All the gang, Bing and Mona and Shek and Leo and Ann, would go on a plane to Hong Kong. On the plane, everybody would speak Chinese. Instead, they went to Jones Beach with the director. Mei and her friends rode on 3 trains and 1 bus. They brought lunch, bathing suits, towels, and empty pails. The trip took 2 hours, and they talked and joked the whole way in Chinese. Leo and Bing buried themselves in the sand. Anne and Mona built a castle on top of them. Shek, said Mei, let's dig for shellfish. And off they went with their pails. You can't eat those, said the lifeguard. Mei smiled and kept on digging. He probably doesn't know how to cook them, Shek said in Chinese. She was right. The director made a fire in the picnic area and cooked the shellfish. Nobody said a word. Everybody was busy, very busy eating. At last, Mei looked up and said, delicious, in Chinese. And then, one day, a terrible thing happened. A teacher came to the learning center to help Mei with English. Who was this person with short hair and blue eyes? And why was she smiling? Mei was afraid. She wouldn't speak a word in English or Chinese. Hello, I'm Nancy, the person said. She pointed to an empty table. Let's sit down. Mei understood the teacher's English. The teacher had a book, and she read a story. Mei forgot that she didn't want to listen. The story was interesting, even if it was in English. It was about a boy who lived in New York more than 100 years ago. His family wanted to move to California. Mei knew about California. She smiled to herself as she thought about California in Chinese. The teacher read on. The family crossed the country in a covered wagon. Covered wagon, thought Maymay. She didn't know the words for covered wagon in Chinese. Maymay didn't want to hear any more. She didn't want English to have words that she didn't know in Chinese. She felt sad, and a tear slid down her cheek. She didn't want the teacher to see, but the teacher did see, and said, "Let's stop for today," in English. That night in bed, Maymay felt afraid again. She wasn't sure why. She felt she might lose something. She felt she had lost something. She felt she would lose something. "Good night," her mother said in Chinese. "Good night," answered Maymay without thinking, in English. And then she fell into a deep sleep. She dreamt about Hong Kong. In the dream, she went to see Yi Fang, but Yi Fang said, "Who are you?" in English. "Who am I?" dreamt Maymay. "I don't even remember my name." She woke up shouting, "I am Maymay," in Chinese. The next day, Maymay was mad. She stared at the teacher. She glared at the teacher. And then she said, "I don't care," to the teacher in English. "Very good," said Nancy. "I knew you could speak English." I used to do that. "But I don't think you really want to learn," Nancy continued. "And that's too bad." "Why is it too bad?" thought Maymay in Chinese. The teacher seemed to read her mind. "Because in America, almost everything happens in English. Don't you want to go to an American movie? Don't you want to ask for pizza? Don't you want to have an ice cream cone? Don't you want to read the signs at the zoo? Don't you want to talk with me? I want to talk with you," said Nancy in English. Maymay turned away. She wanted to tell Nancy that she liked her, but all she could say was, "I'm sorry," in English. Nancy suddenly jumped up. "Get your coat," she said to Maymay. "We are going to take a walk." Maymay said goodbye to Shek in Chinese. On the street, a strange thing happened. Nancy didn't ask Maymay to talk. Nancy didn't care if Maymay talked. Nancy didn't want Maymay to talk. Nancy was talking in English. She told Maymay about her third-grade teacher. She told Maymay about her favorite book. She told Maymay that she loved tomatoes and potatoes. She told Maymay about Mr. Schwartz, her dog. She told Maymay everything, it seemed, in English. Maymay thought about her school. She thought about her favorite book. She thought about Cher Soi Bois, her favorite food. And then she thought about Sui Fa, her cat, in Chinese. But Nancy wouldn't stop talking. She went on and on and on. "Forever talking," yelled Maymay in English. Nancy didn't seem to hear. She kept on talking. She started reading the store signs. She read the names forwards and backwards. Sang Ping became Nip Nas. Maymay became Eem, and still Nancy talked in English. "Stop!" cried Maymay. She couldn't stand it anymore. She felt invisible. "I want to talk," she shouted in English. Accomplishment made. And before she could think about what she was doing, Maymay began. She talked about Children's Day in Hong Kong. You get lots of presents. She talked about the dragon dances on Chinese New Year. She talked about her street in Hong Kong and all her friends nearby. She talked for 22 minutes without stopping in English. Nancy was laughing, and as Maymay talked, Nancy laughed more and more. Maymay started to smile. Then she laughed a little, and then she shook with laughter. They both laughed so hard neither one could say a word in English or Chinese. "Thank you," said Nancy as she gave Maymay a hug. "For what?" asked Maymay, still laughing. "For giving me," said Nancy, "a present of English." "You are welcome," said Maymay. And to this day, Maymay talks in Chinese and English whenever she wants. The end. Remember, boys and girls, you speak another language, keep it up. And make sure you take care of everybody around you. Don't forget to like my channel, give me suggestions, Have a great day. Bye.